Could Dodge come back to NASCAR one day? I don't know. I would love nothing more than for them to come back, but when you look at their history together, maybe things are just best in the past. Well, looks like I have to remake that Dodge video because I guess I was wrong. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jet. Welcome back to an episode of Inside the Lines. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday morning. We have some stuff to talk about, some good stuff to talk about following what happened in the Daytona 500. If you haven't already, don't forget to leave a like on this video, comment down below your thoughts on any of the topics that we will be discussing in this video. There will be timestamps also in the description, so you can skip to whichever topic you like me to discuss whenever you like. But we're going to first talk about IndyCar and IndyCar drivers in NASCAR. First off, Castroneves. He had quite possibly the worst speed week I've ever seen. I mean, anytime there was a crash, he was in it. And he said that he had a lot of fun, and I really hope he did, because I've been seeing a lot of people on social media kind of take him too far. Outright kind of just blaming him for everything, criticizing on why he's even here in the first place, especially if a certain spotter. I know there's an issue with the open exemption provisional. I'm not a fan of it, but no need to take it out on him, and all the crashes weren't his fault, especially in the ARCA race, which, I mean, I don't know. You going to the ARCA race as your first ever stock car race is an interesting decision, to say the least. But after he got caught up in his crash at the beginning of stage 2, involving with his teammate Ross Chastain and other drivers, he was asked if he would like to return to NASCAR anytime. He said, "I'd love to, especially on a road course. Now that I understand a little bit more, my seat is good. Now that I've gone through the whole process, I wish I would have had a little more seat time. I was having a good time there. I was understanding a lot. Darn it, what a tough break." So it would be nice to see Castroneves kind of be a bit more in his element, especially with today's version of super speedway racing, which we will get into in a little bit. But I'm glad he's opening the door to wanting to come back to NASCAR. I mean, having world-class drivers, international drivers in general, is good for the sport, healthy for the sport. Again, with the open exemption provisional, I understand what NASCAR is trying to do, but they're going about this the wrong way, in my opinion. But I am happy to hear that Castroneves is leaving the door open for any future NASCAR appearances, because it would be cool to see him maybe in the streets of Chicago, Watkins Glen. It would be awesome to see him compete in those types of races in the Cup Series. Another driver that was there, that is part of the IndyCar division, 6-time champion Scott Dixon. Now, Dixon, he was with Legacy Motor Club. Him and Jimmy Johnson are really good friends. And he was asked during final practice for the Daytona 500 on Saturday about what he was doing there and would the opportunity for him to maybe be in a cup race. He said there's always a chance. Jimmy and I were actually talking about it this morning. Obviously, there's lots of things we have to figure out, but we'll try to figure something out. So that is awesome to hear. Really, really cool to hear. Now, he doesn't mention about could it be for the Daytona 500, or if it's maybe like what Elliott wants to do and just go on a road course. But still, like I said, having more international drivers, more world-class drivers from different disciplines of racing is only good. It will only help the sport. So that is awesome to hear that, you see some other world-class drivers, not just Shane Van Gisbergen now joining full-time, and now seeing Brazilian and Eli Castroneves, and now Scott Dixon maybe potentially eyeing NASCAR. We've also heard reports of other supercars drivers that also have an interest in coming over to NASCAR. Again, this is all healthy for the sport, all good for the sport, and I would really love to see Scott Dixon in a cup car. Just any world-class driver in a cup car. It just would be cool to see. And now let's talk about Dodge and NASCAR. I made a whole video about it a few months ago detailing the history of NASCAR, and I said at the end of that video that maybe some things should be best left in the past, because I just didn't think it'd be possible to see Dodge back in NASCAR. Maybe I was wrong. According to Chris Knight from CatchFence.com, NASCAR received a formal submission for a 4th OEM to join at least the NASCAR Truck Series in 2026, with Dodge being the leading candidate through their Ram brand. Now, it is important to know that the Dodge and Ram brand, although they are under the same umbrella, they are separate. Since 2009, the Ram brand has been its own identity from Dodge. But still, they're kind of under this umbrella. If Dodge were to enter any form of motorsports, you align it with trucks and Ram. It also says in this article that Dodge is also searching for an engine manufacturer to provide power for a potential Cup Series entry beginning in 2028. So this is 3 years from now down the line. First off, finally, I'll admit, with Steve Phelps, he came out a few weeks ago with an article saying this ain't no BS. We are almost getting a fourth OEM. I always thought he was just saying that just to say something. It was just fluff, but it looks like maybe he was actually serious. So, all right, I will take the L on this one, Steve. But wow. Dodge, I would never, I've always assumed maybe it'd be Honda or someone completely different, not Dodge and NASCAR. Now you have to understand with the truck series, it's a bit more streamlined compared to in previous years. Previous years in trucks, you build your own truck, you also build your own engine. Well, nowadays the truck series are using Ilmor engines. So Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota, they're just building the trucks, just building the chassis, and that's it. NASCAR may be coming out with a much more streamlined new update to the truck series in a few years down the line. I think that's also helping Dodge/Rams transition back into NASCAR. And if you look back in the history of previous OEMs, one thing that comes to mind is Toyota. When Toyota entered NASCAR, they first entered the truck series. They were part of the truck series only from 2004 to 2006. Then they went Cup Series racing in 2007. So this looks like something that Dodge could be doing, where it's like, let's get our feet wet, jump back into the truck series at least, and then when we get more accustomed to NASCAR, then we can start floating the idea of going to Cup racing. Now, this is something that this is actually happening. This is not a rumor. This is not a rumor. This is basically a done deal. This will be happening. The question now becomes, who will make the transition to become a Dodge factory team? There are some teams that are really toying with the idea. There is one team that I will say that I think everyone has on their mind, and that is ThorSport. ThorSport, they change manufacturers almost every year. They're a Ford team, then a Chevy team, Toyota, Ford, they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if we see ThorSport be Dodge's first entry to support them in their return to NASCAR. But there are also other teams that are not really that confirmed, but have been floating the idea of possibly moving over to Dodge. But this is happening. This is legit. This is real. Dodge will be coming back to NASCAR. Never thought I would say that. And it is awesome. Again, more OEMs are just better for the sport. I don't care. I hate this mindset that, oh, it has to be just American OEMs, just OEMs in general. I don't care if you're American, German, Japanese. More OEMs, the better, but especially with Dodge because of its storied history with NASCAR, and that NASCAR fans have always had such a soft spot for Dodge. To see them back in NASCAR, it is really cool to see. And now, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, it's always, anytime you see Denny Hamlin have a bad race, you know you're going to get a really good episode of Actually Detrimental, and today was no different. Denny Hamlin, if you haven't, please listen to his latest episode. I mean, it is eye-opening, to say the least. His 15-minute monologue was amazing in the sense of it really, I think, exposes the main issue with NASCAR. Some of the quotes that he mentioned, I'm going to read them off here. He said that, "I hate the fact of how much luck is involved with NASCAR now. I feel like the Daytona 500 is a microcosm of the sport and how we crown our champions. The entertainment of it has far taken over the sport of it. The winner is lucky, the champion is lucky. That is not good for being legitimate in the sports landscape. How do you create stars when luck is what is such a big factor? Stars are created on the racetrack by creating greatness." Again, these are just little quotes I took. I mean, the whole episode was just, I don't want to say bar after bar, but it was like bam, bam, bam. I mean, he scorched earth on NASCAR. And it did bring up a lot of points that I mentioned in the race review. Don't get me wrong. Last year, Sunday's Daytona 500 was one of the best in the next gen era. Maybe the best in the next gen era. Until, again, we took our brains out and threw them on into the trash can. And again, it exposes the main issue with NASCAR again. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that William Byron is the winner because Byron is a championship contender and he won last year. So it's like, well, clearly, you know, it gives off the perception that clearly it is not just a random luck of the draw. I mean, he's gone back to back. So I am glad on that. However, the fact of it doesn't change that this super speedway package is a issue. It's a problem when we're gridlocking, you know, and you can't do anything. If you try to pull out of line to make a pass, there's so much drag on the car, you go right to the back. So you just stay in line, bumping and bumping and bumping and bumping. And now I feel like with the combination of the super speedway package, combination of with the playoffs and putting so much of an emphasis on winning and winning and winning and winning and winning only, that drivers just start doing whatever the hell they want to do. Like with Cole Custer doing what he did was so stupid, creating a 10 plus car pileup on the final lap, on the backstretch, when they were nowhere near the start finish line. I mean, 2017, you have to go back to, for the last time I feel like there was a clean Daytona 500 finish. You know, that was the last time. Every year since then have always had a major crash or something in the closing laps of it. And I think that's a problem. And I said this on Sunday, and I got a lot of flack for this, but say what you want. But there is an issue with the Daytona 500 where it's starting to become less and less about making legends, making names, and just more about putting your name into a hat and picking out, boom, here's your winner. Sometimes you will get the same winner twice, but it feels more of a luck race than a skill race. Don't get me wrong, Super Speedway has always had that luck factor. Since the 80s, since the beginning of time, always has had that little bit of luck factor, but it's much more common in today's super speedway racing. That's why I look at a track like Atlanta. In my eyes, Atlanta miles better than Daytona and Talladega, because it's a track that puts more of an emphasis on skill, on handling. You know, if your car is not set up right, or if you don't have the drafting expertise, you're not going to be leading laps. You cannot drive your car the way you can, because Atlanta races kind of like an old Daytona or Talladega, where it's not so much of just mash your gas and just hope for the best. You know, what was that guy, that ARCA driver, saying, I'm just going to put my foot on the floor and I'm not lifting until I see God or the checker flag? That's the mentality for the drivers nowadays. Just mash the gas and hope it sticks. That should not be the perspective of our biggest race. The most prestigious NASCAR race is just mash your gas and hope it sticks. Like, can you imagine the Indy 500 having that mentality? No, like that's not how the most prestigious race in NASCAR should be viewed as. And every single year, I've had this feeling for a while, it's still an important race, but every single year it feels like we're going away and away, more away from actual skill, actual ingenuity, racing IQ, and more of just randomness, complete randomness. Again, I'm glad that Byron won, because again, he is a championship contender and he won last year. So there is that perception there, but I think that is a scapegoat at the same time. That, oh, look, Byron won, proven winner, championship contender. It's fine. Okay, yeah, that's good that we have a winner like that and not a random winner like John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Dillon. But it's a scapegoat. It covers a big issue with NASCAR, and then prioritizing more entertainment so that it looks nice. It looks great. See, look, 2x2, 3-wide racing, yet we're only going 45% throttle. And we're fuel saving for 150 laps. By the way, that oddly timed debris caution, I have some questions about that. But again, there is a major underlying issue with NASCAR and super speedway racing specifically that I feel like many people don't want to talk about. They don't want to discuss, and they just go, oh, it's super speedway racing. It is what it is. No, there's an issue here that needs to be solved. This next-gen car has some big issues, and it can be fixed. We talked about the underbody, to have cars stop flying in the air. Get the drag off of these cars. Cut the spoiler out, because this car produces too much downforce. Get some drag off of these cars. Make them be able to race. Make the drivers be able to be the difference maker, and not just have a gridlock where it looks nice, where it's like, hey, look at this 3-wide racing. This is incredible. Your drivers are only going 40% throttle, and they can't do anything. If they try to, they get sent to the back. That's why drivers are trying so desperately to stay up front, and that's how you get crashes. But yeah, Denny's podcast really connected with me, because he was saying a lot of things that I have been feeling about super speedway racing specifically, and just overall more focus of an emphasis on entertainment than actual racing quality. And it's getting more and more exposed, and it's happening on our biggest stage. Again, it looks nice from the eyes, from an eye test. It looks great, but then once you actually look into it, it's like, ooh, okay, there are some major issues here that need to be solved. Yes, we're working hard on the short tracks with this next gen car and the tires. We're making gains on that. We're making gains on road courses. But let's not lose sight of the fact that Super Speedway Racing, even though Sunday night, again, like I said, one of, if not the best Daytona 500 in the next gen era, there are still some major issues that need to be solved.